Hello and welcome to Top Story. This week, one of the world's so-called frozen conflicts simmered into violence again when Azeri and ethnic Armenian forces clashed in the disputed region of Nagorno Karabakh. Both sides reported fierce fighting in the northeast of the Armenian-populated enclave. Until the breakup of the Soviet Union, Nagorno Karabakh had been part of the Republic of Azerbaijan. But fighting between the Azeris and Armenians began in 1988 that was to last 6 years and ended with the expulsion of the Azeri population from Karabakh. A Russian-brokered ceasefire left the Armenian Karabakhis not just in control of Karabakh itself, but also of a large swathe of Azeri territory around the enclave. Some 30,000 people died in the fighting, and at least 1 million people were forced to flee their homes. Despite the ceasefire, skirmishes have never stopped, and Azerbaijan has, in the meantime, used its growing oil wealth to rearm and expand its armed forces. President Ilham Aliyev said this week that his country was ready to retake the region by force if necessary. So is the Karabakh conflict about to reignite? Well, joining me now to discuss the conflict and its wider implications is Jean Sirapian, president of the Chobanyan Institute here in Paris. Thanks very much for being on Top Story. If I could just ask you to begin with, could you just remind us how this conflict began, what it's about?
The conflict began, as you said, in 1988 with the Liberation War, and we can say that at that moment 85 to 19% of the population of Karabakh, Artsakh in Armenian, was Armenian. So they wanted their autonomy, and they gave that the war was finished in armistice by an armistice in 1994. And from that point on, we can consider that Karabakh as an entity and the Armenia strategically, militarily, and economically is a one entity.
You say a liberation war, but that's not, of course, how the Azeris perceive it. As far as they're concerned, it was a national disaster, the loss of what they regard as the cultural cradle of Azeri civilization.
But we can say that the Karabakh territory, as like the Nakhchivan, was historically Armenian territory. And when you visit till today Karabakh, you can see all the ancient cultural monuments on that territory. So in 1920-23, by Stalin, that territory was given, Nakhchivan and Karabakh, to Azeris. So it was a situation not very normal strategically, politically.
Okay, let's get away from the history a bit now and concentrate on what has happened in the last few days, because this seems to have been very serious fighting.
Yes. Till now, there was little incidents violating armistice with light weapons. And always from the Azeri side, but that were provocations, little provocations. But in Tuesday, that was much more important, and there was they were using much heavier machinery, artillery, to attack, and they gained a little territory, but it was regained by the Armenians. So now in their they are under a statu quo front line.
You say the Azeris always started, but in this particular case at least, the Azeris are blaming the Armenians, saying that they're just using this to distract popular attention inside Armenia away from the internal conflicts in the country at the moment.
Yes, it's very normal to their population and for the international side to say this, but they used for the moment the difficult position of the Armenia after the presidential election to attack the territory with heavy weapons.
There have been many attempts since 1994, when the ceasefire was signed, by the OSCE to sponsor a ceasefire in Karabakh. It hasn't happened, or to sponsor rather a peace settlement in Karabakh, but it hasn't happened. What are the big obstacles to peace in the region?
If we take the diplomacy or saying of the Azeri side from Aliyev, father, and now Ilham Aliyev, yesterday, for example, he said that justice was not the way to gain the territories, but the force, yes. So if you can give a number, between 2007 and this year, there is a 30% of increase in the military budget of Azerbaijan.
One of the big problems, of course, is that the Armenians control not just Karabakh now, but 20% of Azeri territory, a big swathe of land around Karabakh.
Yes.
How do you resolve that problem?
For that reason, when I began, I said that the actual territories gained and conserved by Armenian Karabakh forces is very vital for the survival of the Armenia, because strategically talking, there is multi-level front lines to protect before the Karabakh and also Armenia by an invasion of Azerbaijan. So today, Armenia or Karabakh cannot give any parcel of the territory to Azerbaijani. That would be the very difficult to conserve later for their survival.
Now this conflict has an international dimension as well, because the pipeline, the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline, which brings gas and oil from the Caspian Sea to the Mediterranean, runs very close to the conflict. How big a threat to that pipeline would it be if the fighting were to start in a serious way again?
The trace line of the Baku-Ceyhan pipeline also is a political weapon against Armenia, because they could pass by Armenia, but they pass by Georgia. So there is at the north and the south is like a blocus, territorial and also political. But if there was a great conflict, it's true that the arms could reach the Baku and the petrols on the Caspian Sea.
So it would be threatened?
Yes.
Okay, and that, I'm afraid, is where we have to end it. That's all we have time for today. Thanks to our guest, Jean Sirapian of the Chobanyan Institute in Paris. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of Top Story. Goodbye.